Beautiful Barcelona, Spain, home of the 4th Mythic Championship. 32 MPL players and more than 500 of the best Magic players from all corners of the world will battle it out for glory, their share of $500,000, and a seat at the Magic the Gathering World Championship. The 4th Mythic Championship starts now.
Hello, everybody, and good morning, and welcome to day 2 of Mythic Championship IV from beautiful Barcelona, Spain. Eduardo Sajgalik and Rich Hagan joining me, Maria Bartholdi, here at the news desk. Eduardo, you were in the booth a lot yesterday. What was some of the most exciting stuff that you saw?
For me, well, we got to open the scene, so to speak, on Modern. I gotta say, we saw a lot of mid-range battles actually to start with. We got to see Jund versus Humans and another match with Jund and Blue-White. It's nice to get back to those grindy basics of Magic.
All right, how about you, Rich?
Talking of grindy basics, dear Lord, the team series yesterday, bit of a bloodbath. No one put their stamp on the tournament. I think the big storyline is that Channel Fireball, yes, they've put 4 people through to day 2, but they're all at 4 and 4. They were in 2nd place in the team series. There are a stack of teams queuing up to try and overtake them. 2 Dimension in particular, Cardboard Live have 5 live today, 2 at 6 and 2, Marcus Long and Max Mick. And then KMC Genesis, they came here with just 5. Brad Nelson not here this weekend, but they've put all 5 into day 2. BBD at 6 and 2, everyone else at 5 and 3. You have to expect at least one of them will make a run from 5 and 3, and maybe an 11 and 5 or a 12-4, or indeed a top 8 performance could make all the difference. So looks to me, in particular, 2 last-minute rounds. Kowalski and Dominguez both won their last round to go to 6 and 2. For Haruya Sword, they were in first. So I think they're in reasonable shape to still get through. Channel Fireball, though, really in the hot seat today.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, if this is the first day that you're joining us on coverage, welcome. You've missed day 1, but here in day 2 is where a lot of the action is going to happen. And Rich is going to walk us through the schedule and what kind of formats we're going to see today.
Right, so basically, today is a mirror of yesterday. You get first 3 rounds, Modern Horizons Booster Draft. That's what the players are sitting down for right now. Then rounds 4 through 8, that was Modern, 75 cards, 60 in your main deck, 15 in your sideboard. We have everyone on 4 wins or better. That's 12 match points here today on Saturday, 9 to 11 Modern Horizons Draft, then into Modern. And then tomorrow, the top 8 only get to play on Sunday. It's best out of 5 matches, and you play the first couple of games in your 5-game set before you access those precious, precious sideboard slots.
All right, so the top 8 is what we're playing for, but we're also playing for some cold, hard cash. Eduardo, why don't you walk us through the prize payout for this championship?
$50,000 and a world championship seat awaits
Not bad.
the winner. It's pretty good. Yeah. After that, though, I mean, it drops quite a bit, but you can still walk home. A lot of the bread and butter finishes, so to speak. If you go something like 12-4, often that's not good for top 8, but that'll get you that $6,000 prize pool in 9th through 16th. But even just for showing up, even somebody who didn't do so well yesterday, say 1-5, and decided to sightsee. Well, you still have $500 and a nice little weekend in Barcelona.
Yeah, not bad at all. And also we need to talk about the points that we're giving out away at this tournament. Of course, Mythic Points is the name of the game here at MC4. So let's take a look at how we're awarding those Mythic Points. First place gets you 50 Mythic Points and 30 Pro Points. Now, why are Pro Points important? The only reason is for the continuation of the team series here at this event. Mythic Points is what we care about going forward. So a full 50 for first place is pretty good, Rich.
For sure. All right, so why don't we take a look at what happened if you weren't here yesterday. Let's run some of the highlights of day 1 for you now. And we began with Paul Rietzl as our featured drafter. So here we go, rocking and rolling onto your screens. There's the table as we get into round 1. There's Rietzl taking a look at Jared Calabrese, what he's up to. Rietzl would go on to win that one in the open. That exclude was kind of useful. Paul did a lot of thinking thinking. He was busy, and he got, what is that about? I have no idea. So then we got to round number 3. Rietzel was playing for the pod against Marcio Carvalho. Phantasmal form involved in that one. Marcio, okie doke. Right, very good, very good. You see Raf Levy in the background there. Rietzel won the pod. Raf Levy, in a massive match against John Finkel, claimed his pod with a removal spell at the end. That's Joe Lissette, who's a lovely guy, but not very happy here because he had to mulligan to 3 as we headed into constructed, this time against Brian Brown Dewin, and that was enough for BBD to advance to 4. Now he would finish 6-2 on day 1. Into round 5 we go. Edgar Magayesh against Pat Cox. Here we are, and humans on the right of the screen, but Magayesh got the job done in that one. Round 6, here's Toralf Severin of Germany at the top of your screen, assembling Tron and doing all kinds of unfair Tronorific things against Manuel Lons of Austria there. So Toralf Severin at that point was going to go to 6-0, but that is a very sweet instant speed Thoughtseize you're looking at there. Severin still got the job done, but style points go to Lons for that. So on we go. Now we're seeing Sam Black against Emma Handy. Emma Handy took care of that one. We saw some Vengevine action there. Back to Severin, this time against Ben Hull in round number 7. And once again, there's your 25th anniversary Pro Tour champion, Ben Hull, alongside Alan Wu, who also is in the top pod, by the way, today. But Severin got that one. And then who would advance at 8-0? It was Hocquemiller against Waffa all France all the time. The Hall of Famer Waffa at the bottom of your screen there. Hocquemiller in the hat. He got game 1. Thank you so much. And playing again blue-white control against the more sort of old school Esper control of Waffa. Hocquemiller took control of game number 2. And by 2-0, Arnaud Hocquemiller is your perfect record 8-0 here on day 1 of Mythic Championship 4.
Yeah, awesome stuff that we saw yesterday. I think the power of the hat was with Arnaud. We'll see if he's rocking it again today. But let's take a look at our leaderboard, if we can, to find out where everybody is standing here on day 2 as we get started in the morning, starting out with draft. Take a look there. Arnaud Hocquemiller, of course, our lone 8-0. You see him there at the top. Bernardo Santos, still technically unblemished at 7-0-1. And then a suite of 7-1s round out our top feature pod.
Right, and yes, it is literally in scorecard order that you'll see the pods there. So we've got Arnaud Hocquemiller at 8-0, Edgar Magayesh, Christian Hauck, Christian Calcano. We'll see every pick of his later in the show. Bernardo Santos of Portugal, Guillermo Fataba. So that's the field. But Maria, why don't we actually just walk through who these people are?
All right, well, let's take a look at our feature pod, which will be playing Modern Horizons Draft this morning, and I'm super excited. There it is on your screen. Arnaud Hocquemiller, 8-0, our lone 8-0, 1 Grand Prix top 8 in 2015. We'll be watching his draft live. Around the table, Edgar Magayesh, 6 Grand Prix top 8s and 1 win. This is his 10th Mythic Championship. As we continue our way around, Christian Hauck, of course, of the MPL, 1 Mythic Championship top 8. That was Pro Tour Ixalan. Then Christian Calcano, fan favorite here, 1 Mythic Championship top 8 and Amonkhet in 2017, 9 Grand Prix top 8s and 2 wins. Definition of a grinder there. He is our recorded match, so we'll also watch every pick from Christian Calcano. Then we continue around to Bernardo Santos from Portugal, 3 Grand Prix top 8s. He's our 7-0-1. Continuing our way around, Guillaume Waffa, Hall of Famer, 5 Mythic Championship top 8s and 1 win at Pro Tour Yokohama in 2007. As we work our way around the table, Alan Wu, you might remember him from Pro Tour 25th anniversary. That was the Team Pro Tour. He's the champion. He has 2 Grand Prix titles. And finally, Toralf Severin, 3 Grand Prix top 8s, Team Phoenix, New Dawn.
Fantastic stuff. So that is the table. It is literally set. The players are ready. We're ready. Let's head down for the second draft of Mythic Championship 4.
And welcome back to coverage here at Mythic Championship 4 from Barcelona. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon, and of course this is where things really start kicking into high gear. We're in day number 2. The players that have survived that day 1 cut are now seated and ready for the draft here on day number 2. We're going to be kicking things off with our live drafter. That is our lone, truly undefeated player in the field that's still at 8-0, Arnaud Hocquemiller, and he is seated and ready. Now, this is pod number 1, as you might imagine. This represents the top of the standings. So these are the players that have had the most success coming over. But that includes both Booster Draft and Modern. So it's kind of a mix of things, though. To be in pod 1, you have to have done well in your draft. All right, looks like we're underway. Let's get a look here at what Arnaud has opened up. He's got a Grave Shifter pulled to the front, Paul. Let's see, Everdream.
Mob, it
and
looks
a
like.
Mob, yeah, there you go.
And it looks like it's really just a decision between, I would guess, that the 2 black cards in the pack here. We have both Mob and Graveshifter, both very, very strong cards. Graveshifter even stronger. I mean, Changeling, of course, very, very effective. But not only that, a lot of great come into play effects on other creatures as well. So those are some of the things to consider. It looks like he also has the Sliver in front of the pack.
The Hollow Head Sliver?
Yeah,
that's strange.
Right.
That does not seem to be in the same space, you know, as Mob and the Graveshifter. He does go for what is probably the most rawly powerful option in the deck, which was that Graveshifter. Excuse me, in the pack, I meant to say. All right, so let's get on to pick number 2, Force of Vigor, and there is a Pyrophobia as well as, oh, look at this. He likes an Unanswered Prayers, or excuse me, an Answered Prayers.
Yeah, Answered Prayers.
I like that card,
I
too.
think it's been moving further and further up the kind of the rankings for white, and I think a lot of people have it as one of the top commons in white. Just really hard to, really difficult to deal with, difficult to race. Big evasive flyer at 3 mana. If you're aggressive, that's exactly the type of card you want.
Is he? You know, that's the question, is that there's really no reason to move into white at this point. And most of the players' consensus is that they do not want to be white, but he's going to take Answered Prayers here.
Yeah.
Wow, he must have an idea.
He was even considering the Wind Caller even there as well, because that's the card that you're not really looking to take early.
But also, I'm kind of surprised he was considering Answered Prayers in that pack.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it could be
one of something amazing.
It could be one of those things where kind of the general consensus amongst the top players is white is not the color you want to be in. So maybe there's also some value in just forcing white and just making sure that you put your foot down and say, look, I am the white drafter. Give me all the cards.
Yeah, being a contrarian in draft when the trends are very established can be very profitable.
Yeah, but it looks like in terms of just pure power level, there's nothing that really comes close to the Thundering Djinn. I mean, if you do want to kind of lock in white, Secluded Steppe is a fine option, but Thundering Djinn, too powerful, and looks like Arnaud going for that one.
So far, Arnaud kind of drafting the hard way. That means staying open, right? So he has not committed to any particular color pair or strategy thus far. And frankly, he hasn't really been given any super strong signals in any direction either. So I think this is a fine spot for him to kind of waffle around a little bit in the first half of the pack and kind of feel it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this format where the packs are so deep. Oftentimes it's, you know, the correct thing to do is stay open and really try to identify which lane you're supposed to be in. Figure out which archetype, which color combination is the open combination, because then you will be rewarded in pack 3, possibly even pack 2.
He's going to take Retrobration. Wow. So, you know, I think that Arnaud really likes white.
Yeah.
Which puts him definitely in the minority of drafters at the tournament. But like you said, you know, there could be some payoffs for him if he's one of the few willing to go in that direction.
Yeah, I thought he was going to consider something like a Choking Tethers there to go with the Thundering Djinn.
Yeah, he had the Talisman of Hierarchy pulled to the front as well. There's another one in this pack, but he decided to go against it.
And now he's got Smoke Shroud. You know, I am seeing a good amount of snow cards here that we've seen. Scale Up is also a card that I've been impressed with if you want to kind of be a little more aggressive, especially if you go something like white-green aggressive where you're really trying to go wide anyways. That's the type of card that you can just get opponents out of nowhere.
Wow, he just took Smoke Shroud.
Smoke Shroud?
Yeah, so he is all over the map here. Currently, really not a lot of direction for this deck. Smoke Shroud doesn't really go in a deck with white cards in it at all.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
he is very much kind of in the middle at this point and doesn't really have a strong path.
Yeah, I mean, if he still wants to try to go down the path of taking white cards, Knight of Old Benali is a fine card to play. It's much better once you heavily commit and really just are going to commit to a low mana curve. It looks like Arnaud might be favoring maybe a white-blue tempo style deck. and just using Smoke Shroud as a way to, give evasion to your ground creatures. And, keep in mind, it doesn't just trigger off ninjas, it also triggers off changelings, which are also ninjas. So, if your opponents manage to deal with the creature with Smoke Shroud on it, you can still get it back with cards like the irregular cohorts.
Interesting. He's got a King of the Pride pulled to the front, which actually goes super well with his first two picks, the Graveshifter and the Answered Prayers. That archetype is all about caring about creature types, specifically Changeling is kind of what you're going for there. And that King of the Pride just pumps all your creatures if they're changelings. Unfortunately for Arnaud, he has the Thundering Djinn and the random Smoke Shroud kind of in there, but maybe we're going to see him kind of veer back towards being heavy white and then figure out his other color in the next pack.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. He wants to be kind of a white base, and if you're white, you can really pair it with any other color. You definitely want to be heavy white, though, because you have cards like the Knight of Old Benalia, which kind of demands that you have white mana early, along with cards like Answered Prayers, which is a double white card that you play on turn 3.
Well, now he takes Twin Silk Spider. So again, Arnaud definitely not committed to anything specific at this point. This is the pack that he opened, so we are on his wheel pack now. That Ayuli's Influence still in the pack. That's a card I had a chance to play once, and I was actually really impressed by it. But triple green's a little rough.
Yeah. You need to be. You need to have really, really strong mana fixing.
Yeah.
But being able to turn.
I'll say I was pleasantly surprised because I did not have high expectations for it, but it ended up being better than I thought.
Played it for science and just to see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see on the left-hand side, you do see all of the picks from Arnaud. So, this gives you a better sense of what he's kind of looking to be. Right now, it looks to me like he kind of wants to be base white. And honestly, if you want to try to figure out what the best card to go with all those white cards, it's really the Graveshifter. However, he really hasn't seen a whole lot of black cards beyond that Graveshifter. He passed the mob, and we really haven't seen anything else. So it doesn't really seem like black is especially open. I mean, the black-white color combination is nice to go with something like King of the Pride because those are the changeling color combinations. But yeah, Arnaud really needs to kind of figure out what he wants to do for his second color.
He really does, because I'll tell you what, you look at a snapshot of the cards on the left-hand side of your screen there, this is a train wreck. Like right now, he has no direction and low power level. This is exactly what you don't want. That doesn't mean he can't save it. Basically, all the cards in this set have a place in some deck, and there's many archetypes that can pick up cards that nobody else wants that are very good for that deck. So by no means is this unrecoverable. Right. But right now, like, where is he going? What is happening here? He has no direction.
Yeah, and I think this is also kind of what happens when you come into a draft trying to maybe possibly force something specific, because we saw Arnaud take a bunch of those white cards. And to be fair, I mean, some of Answered Prayers is a top tier common if you are looking to be the aggressive white deck. It's just we really didn't see a lot of aggressive cards to pair with it. So it does seem to me like somebody else is also, maybe multiple people are looking to kind of draft aggressive strategies, because we saw no 2-drops.
No.
No
way.
No
and
enduring
the
slivers.
Stack's not open. Yeah. Now, the direction that I would want to see him go, if possible, right, if the cards cooperate, is in that black-white direction, because he has committed to white fairly hard just by sheer number of cards. You can see he's got 5 white cards down on the lower left side of your screen. You can see the number of color of each card, or excuse me, how many instances of a color on each of his cards, and then the mana cost curve as well. So right now, it seems with 5 white cards, that seems to be kind of where he's planted his flag. And then I like what you said before, Paul. That Graveshifter is the best card to go with them. But I'll tell you what, Arnaud needs to right the ship here. He needs to figure out where he's at. Now, the good news is he's got time.
Rare.
He's got time. Yeah. Oh, totally. He is definitely open to getting something sweet out of this pack.
Yeah, he's in one of those spots because he doesn't really have a fully defined second color. He opens something like a Hex Drinker, he's just going to go into green-white.
Yep. Little Yawgmoth action maybe for
anything.
Arnaud?
I mean, Winds of Abandon would be ideal because it's just white, but see if he has a nice rare here. Nope, doesn't look like it here.
No, but he did actually open up a nice pack. There's an irregular cohort here for him. There was another card that I saw. Yeah, if he wanted, he could go for that Helix as well, the Smiting Helix. Because, again, he may be leaning black-white at this point. It feels like the irregular cohort is probably the pick because at this point he feels like he knows he's white, right?
Yeah, the fact that you're locked into that, he has no mana fixing currently either. Smiting Helix is just okay if you can't really flash it back. Interesting. Okay, so
goes.
he's looking to get a little ambitious here. You know, we know that he's base white. He's likely wants to play that Graveshifter, and he's probably going to look to find a way to flash back the Smiting Helix, because otherwise, I think Irregular Cohorts is just a better card.
Yeah, this is interesting because what he is effectively doing with that pick is kind of throwing himself at the mercy of the rest of the packs. He is going to have to just get black and white cards shipped to him. He's given up a bit of his flexibility here.
Okay.
And unfortunately for him, that hasn't happened. A Cryptorats is certainly an okay card. It's fine, and he should probably take it at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of, he doesn't have any Snowlands. So on thin ice, while a premium removal spell, if you have something like 6 snow permanents, not going to be great here.
He's going to take Secluded Step, which is a card that's effectively guaranteed to make the cut. But, power level-wise, it leaves a little to be wanting.
Maybe it's one of those things where he's like, I'm going to be white. I'm going to be aggressive. So if I have Cryptorats, it's going to be awkward because I'm probably going to be looking to curve out. Although right now, he doesn't even have a great curve, especially in his deck.
There was a Zhalfirin decoy in the pack there.
Yeah.
As perhaps the best white card. And
I wouldn't really be
Yikes.
looking at the spells here. I think I just want to fill out my curve and take some creatures right now. Stirring Address is a card that likely tables. You don't really need to take those very highly, and you also really don't want too many of those cards in your deck.
Right, Ransack the Lab is similar.
Right.
In that you can get it later. You probably only want one, and it's not even that good in your deck anyway.
And the decoy is just, if you're looking to be aggressive and curve out, it's a nice way to just, have an additional permanent on the battlefield that can help tap things down. But
he took the Stirring Address there.
Okay, it looks like Hocquemiller really confident that he can find enough creatures to fill out his scope. Wow, that's a late Firebolt.
It is indeed.
One
that is
of the
gonna
better
catch his
uncommons in
eye.
the set.
The rares in the pack too here, Force of Despair.
Right.
And I don't know how committed he considers himself to black, but that's a pretty good card.
Oh, look at, red really open from this side.
Too.
You should not see something like Firebolt and Sinkhole, pick 4. This pack must have been incredible. Given that he's flashing back, okay.
He took Putrid Goblin.
Okay, I was going to say, given that, he might be looking to flash back that Smiting Helix, if you're going to splash red, maybe you can take something like the Helix, but it looks like Arnaud is really looking to make sure that he has the proper curve here.
Well, he is now, but he wasn't earlier.
Right.
There's a consistency here that is not in place. He did not take the cheaper 2-drop creature and instead went for the pump spell before. But now, instead of taking a pretty decent removal spell with Force of Despair, he's just going to go and take the Goblin. So you can tell he's waffling back and forth a bit as he plays here. Return from Extinction is the pickup here. Fine, but again, he's got to be careful about playing too many things that aren't creatures or aren't things that affect the board.
I will say Return from Extinction is especially good if you're black-white, because your deck tends to have a few more changelings.
Yeah, Graveshifter, etc.
Right.
And this pack, unfortunately for him, doesn't look super good. The Cabal Therapist, fine. You can play it in a Ninja's deck just because it has Menace, but it doesn't really it's not really the game plan. And yeah, the wall is like...
It's fine.
It's fine.
Fine.
Fine. But again, I feel like if I'm Arnaud, I need more than fine at this point, right?
Absolutely.
I got some making up to do here.
And generally when I'm drafting white decks, I'm looking to be aggressive, and this. I'm still trying to figure out what this deck is exactly trying to do. There's another copy of Stirring Address, but now I feel like Arnaud has too many spells, so he really needs to prioritize creatures.
Is he going to take Trustworthy Scout here just to get the curve going?
I think he just might have to.
He does have a lot of 2-drops.
Shelter is a nice combat trick as well. I always like having at least one copy of Shelter in my white decks.
He's going to go with the Scout, and that makes a lot of sense. Again, filling out the creature curve, really important here for Arnaud. Well, he could make it 2,000 cuts if he'd like.
No real other options here in the pack, so I imagine he's just going to take the wall here.
Yeah, strangely, no black or white cards besides it.
I will say the really interesting thing here is, I would have at least expected this pack to go much better in the sense that I thought Arnaud would get all the white cards, and he hasn't gotten any.
I'm
right?
getting nervous for Arnaud.
Look at the cards that he's taken. There's just been no premium white cards for his deck. The only one that he saw was the Irregular Cohorts that he opened.
Here's a couple of decent cards: Silumgar Scavenger or Splicer's Skill.
I think he just wants to fill out his curve, and Splicer Skill helps with that.
Yeah, it has a good application in the late game if you can splice it once, but if not, fine, just play it.
Yeah.
That's some nice flexibility for Arnaud, so that'll be a good pickup for him. And now he's going to get a land. Oof, boy. You saw how he kind of set the cards down like, it's just nothing. It's all blue, green, and red cards in this pack.
Yeah, I mean, he could just consider de-drafting something if he thinks there's a 0% chance he's going to have any snow-related cards in his deck. Also, who knows? Maybe he's going to splash it if he doesn't have enough cards in his deck.
So that Ransack the Lab came back. He also has an option on a Segovian Angel, though not doing a whole lot with that at this point either. No equipment or anything. So, yeah, he's just going to take the Ransack. But, again, you got to be careful. You don't want too many cards like Return from Extinction and Ransack the Lab in your aggressive deck. There's Goblin Matron
it looks like red was kind of the color to be in this draft. It seems extremely open. It looks to me like there's probably only just one red drafter at the table.
Ephemerate as the pack dwindles. So it looks like Arnaud is working his way towards enough playables to put together a deck. It is not good.
No.
This is not a good deck. His best card is Graveshifter, and that's a fine card, but if that's your best card, things did not go well for you in the draft. Now, the good news is there's another pack to go.
There's a lot of powerful rares in the set.
There could be a Yawgmoth sitting in that pack. There could be a Winds of Abandon. Right. That can turn things around and give you that ability to spike that card and get there. Also, maybe just the pack is kind to him. Occasionally you're in like not quite the right colors, but a little bit off, but then the packs are also just bad for you, like coincidentally. So, maybe the third pack hooks him up and he gets a few uncommons and maybe even a decent rare in here. But right now, I mean, he has no removal.
Yeah,
he has a mediocre curve and his power level's low. This is rough.
So one thing that we talked about, at least in yesterday's draft, where Paul Rietzel was not especially happy with his draft deck, at least you could point to his deck and say, look, this deck didn't end up exactly the way that he wanted to, but he had a nice mana curve with a solid amount of spells and tricks, and if his opponent stumbles a little bit, he can punish them. There doesn't seem to be that opportunity in this deck so far. And if you want to get to the late game, given that there are there's not a whole lot of power here, it feels like you're just going to get overpowered.
He's taking a look now, and the players, of course, get a review period in between packs to kind of suss out what they've got going on, what they need in the deck, how many playables they have, what their curve looks like so that they can make decisions in that third pack and kind of get an idea for what they're up to. And so Arnaud is right now doing that assessment, and then once he's done and that time period expires, we'll be in pack number 3. We're drafting Modern Horizons. This is day 2 of the Mythic Championship here in Barcelona. If you're just tuning in, welcome. It's nice to have you. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Chion, bringing you coverage of our only truly undefeated player at 8-0 in the field, Arnaud Hocquemiller from France. And he's got a rough one, but one more pack to go and might be able to fill this thing out and get himself something good. I'll tell you what, though, if I'm in Arnaud's seat, I'm kind of in survival mode at this point. I'm like, is there any way I can scrap a 2-1 out of this deck, right? Like, that's what I'm looking at this point, because this has not gone well for him thus far. Modern Horizons, a very powerful format, and you can't afford to bring low-powered cards to the table if you don't have a whole lot of synergies. All right, looks like pack 3 is ready. Let's get a look at what he opens here. Maybe something great for Arnaud to kickstart this thing. No, nope. It was an Unsettled Mariner. He did pick up a few playables, though. There's a Defile and a Generous Gift, as well as an Enduring Sliver. So he can pick a Defile for his removal spell. He's heavier in white currently, but yeah, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I think Defile is the most powerful card, but if he is concerned about his curve, he might just take the Enduring Sliver. He's got a few Changelings in his deck. If he thinks he's going to play something like a split of 11 playing 6 Swamps, maybe he won't value the Defile high enough. But I think there's enough upside here, and like you said, he's in survival mode. He's just got to go for raw power here and just hope that the draws line up the way that he wants.
So he takes Defile, fine. He finally picked up a removal spell. It's not premium, but it'll work. And let's see what he gets in pack 2. This is really, these first 3 to 5 picks are going to dictate a lot here for Arnaud. He needs to get hooked up. There's a Gluttonous Slug, a fine playable, another Defile, and Wing Shards. Ah, man, he's picking up cards that he can play.
Right.
but they're just not the hammers that he needs. And by the way, that Cloud Shredder sliver,
Yeah, definitely.
like he just has to put that to the back of the pack and ignore it. But that stings because
I mean,
that's a nice place to be.
You know, maybe we just need to kind of shift gears here and just go, look, I'm going to take this to file, go heavier black, and just try to draft a more controlling deck with a lot of removal. I mean, you know, if your deck isn't powerful enough, at least have answers to your opponent's powerful creatures.
Yeah, well, he picked up his 2 removal spells here, so he's going to need to pick up a few more if that plan comes together. But it's something. It's a step in a direction.
Right.
So Defile into Defile here for the first 2 picks. If you want to keep up on it, you can take a look at the left-hand side of your screen and see what he's picked already this pack. There's a Venomous Changeling, and there was a Cohort. So. Yeah. He passed on the other one. He simply cannot afford to do so this time.
Yeah, very likely taking the Cohort here. It is just the best card in the pack in his color combination.
Yeah, he should have taken the other one. You know,
yes.
I think that was one that this should be his second irregular Cohort, but at least he's getting a shot at another. He has an Ephemerate. He has a Graveshifter. He has a Return from Extinction. This card is just perfect for him.
Absolutely.
All right, so. Again, 3 solid common playables to kick things off here for Arnaud. It isn't the fireworks that he really wanted, but it's a step.
If you can string a few of these together, you know, you get a couple more, you know, cards of this power level in the next pack. I mean, you know, he might be able to scrap together potentially a 2-1. It looks like Snow is extremely open here.
It is, yeah. Dead of Winter, not something he can realistically consider, but there is an Enduring Sliver in the pack that he could take. That one is below the power level of the cards that he's taken so far, but meh.
I think he's going to be happy enough with it right now. I mean, given that he only has 2 2-drops currently, an additional 2, he's got the irregular Cohort, he's got a few Changelings in his deck, so having that extra bonus is nice.
Yeah, I like taking the Sliver here. Even though it's not the most powerful option, it is a 2-drop, and it does affect your other Changeling. So good pick there from Arnaud. But again, you know, you're starting to get a little like, uh-oh. Is the good stuff falling away? Let's find out here. Here comes pick number 5. God, Lava Belly Sliver too. Come on.
Looks like red might have been the color he wanted to pair with all the white cards he took early.
Yeah, if he would have taken that Firebolt, he could have ended up in red-white slivers, though. That would have been it was a tough one. You know, that was not obvious at the time.
Yeah, not a whole lot of red cards in pack 1, if I recall.
Talisman of Hierarchy is what he's got pulled to the front. Maybe his deck could use some extra mana.
Yeah, there's also an Azra Smoke Shaper, but
and a Ransack that he was looking at too. The truth is, none of those were super consequential, so he goes with the Talisman. But you can see that look on his face. It feels like this one's starting to fall away, this pack. The power level's not really there. And, yeah, once again, we're in a similar situation here. Another Unsettled Mariner in the pack, but it's a Lancer Sliver.
He might just take the Lancer Sliver. You know, he has a few Changelings, helps fill out the curve. He's got a couple of Wall of Thousand Cuts already. Oh, it looks like he's
taking the
wall.
3rd wall?
Well, you got the Talisman. You need something to ramp into. So, you know, some 3/5 flyers.
I would be surprised if he plays 3 walls. That Lancer Sliver might very well make the cut.
I don't even know if he has enough cards to put into his deck.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Paul. I didn't consider that. There's another Lancer Sliver. Now it looks like he might take this one. He could take the First Sphere Gargantuan, but...
Yeah, a lot of slivers. We're seeing a lot of slivers in this last pack.
We are indeed, yeah. He wants a second Return from Extinction, or does he want the Sliver? He wants a Sliver.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you want to be the person in white, it has to be super open. Like
just hitting you over the head open.
You need to be given all the goods.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a late decoy, an additional 2, but his deck isn't even especially aggressive. The decoy really is nice if you're looking to apply a lot of pressure. But I don't think he wants a second Stirring Address in his kind of more black-white defensive style deck. But it looks like he's just going to take it anyways. Does have a powerful overload effect.
That is one way he could potentially steal a game. Looks like the Generous Gift has come back. So he got re-gifted, but whatever. It's a fine card. You know, I find that about half the time I target my own stuff with it. It's
You can every now and then use it to ambush an attacking creature by killing your own land in the late game or something.
Or changing the combat math for the next turn. It happens more than you'd think.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I don't know if I can do this, Paul. It's just too early, man. Cloud Shredder Sliver double wheels?
Well,
like,
at least you can take solace in the fact that nobody else is in slivers, so you don't really have to take it, right?
That is true.
Because there's no way that card tables if somebody slivers.
Literally impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, so, pretty interesting. You know, a couple of archetypes that you would expect people to draft at the table just not being drafted at all. No red-white slivers, along with, I'm not sure there's a heavy snow player either.
No, it's weird because those are two of the more kind of on-the-nose archetypes in the format. And, I mean, there's 8 players and 10 archetypes. Those are 2 of the better ones.
Right. Well,
whoever's playing blue-whites get caught in the lava belly.
Well, I don't know if you considered black-white mid-range.
I do not consider it one of the. I consider it mid-low.
Right. I guess
I'd rather it be that than blue-white or something.
Right, that's true. If you have black-white with like a lot of changelings, that's something that you can make work. But there's not even a lot of changelings here.
No. All right, well, that is the draft for Arnaud, and it did not go well. Look at that look on his face. That is not the look of somebody who's excited about this deck. And I'll tell you what, there's extra pressure on Arnaud here, right? He is 8-0. Like, when you go to bed at night, you're like, I'm the best, this is awesome. And you wake up, you're like, what if it all goes wrong, right? Like, what if the wheels come off? Well, he's going to need to scrap it out here. And I'll tell you what, if he could get a 2-1 from this deck, he will be absolutely thrilled with that to get back to business with his control deck in the modern portion. But as it stands, he has a very big hurdle to go over here because this deck is not great. Now, one of the things that people forget a lot, though, right, is that it is relative to the other players in the pod. Now, we saw some pretty good stuff going around, but people were leaving, a powerful deck on the table with Sliver's deck, for example. So if it is, let's say, not a great deck in a vacuum, but it's okay relative to the other decks, he might be able to scrap something out.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where I just felt like the power level of the packs was actually pretty high. I just saw a lot of good cards.
I did too.
So I expect a lot of people to be excited. I know Arnaud is likely not one of those people. He's got, a nice mix of removal at least, so maybe he can use that.
I mean, he has a few defiles.
He's got a few defiles.
He didn't get any mobs. He didn't get any Settle Beyond Reality.
That's true.
We whiffed a little.
He passed the mob. He's got that Smiting Helix. I don't know if he's going to look to flash that one back.
Generous gift, anybody? All right.
Yeah,
well,
this is going to be rough.
This is going to be tough, but we'll see if Arnaud can hang on and scrap out some victories in the limited portion. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have Maria at the news desk.